Yeah. Welcome to Third Thursday. Hello, I'm Donna Owens, the Program Director for the OCALI Family Center. On the third Thursday of each month, we provide a web stream broadcast that focuses on a topic of interest for parents and families of children and adults with developmental disabilities and autism spectrum disorders. Each new broadcast becomes available at 6:30 p.m. on the third Thursday of each month. We've covered topics from sensory issues, what parents need to know, to puberty and sexuality. We've discussed alternate assessment and standards-based instruction, as well as autism in girls. How is it different? You will learn from experts in the field and from other parents dealing with the issues under discussion. In addition, each broadcast is accompanied by a list of additional resources on the topic. All broadcasts are archived on the Family Center webpage, so if you're not available on the third Thursday of each month, no worries. You can access them from our webpage. Click on the third Thursday icon to review all 13 topics on the third Thursday series. Today, we're going to be talking about special interest. Many individuals with autism spectrum disorder can exhibit an all-consuming interest in a topic. The topic can be as broad as mammals or as specific as washing machines. The intensity of this interest can present challenges to parents and families and to educators, but it can also provide a powerful teaching tool. That's what we want to explore today. I'll be talking with Wendy Zakas, the OCALI Regional Consultant, who's developed and delivered a training series on addressing challenging behavior, and she regularly supports school districts by leading their district autism team planning process. She's also the former director of the Trumbull County Autism Transition Classroom. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for spending time today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes. So, now let's start with just tell me, what do we mean by special interests?
Sure. Well, all people have special interests, Anna, and really we look at hobbies, collections. Maybe someone has really a lot of knowledge about a topic that maybe the average person would not have. But when we look at someone who has autism spectrum disorder, now we move into another level. And basically it's the intensity, so that person is, as you said, all consumed by that interest. They want to know everything about it, and they want to tell everybody.
Exactly. It can dominate every conversation.
And it can be a wide topic, like such as mammals, or it may be down as small as like dolphins, within that. And their interests can change, or they may keep one their whole life, or for a long period of time, or they may be changing up.
Okay. So I think we have a good idea about special interests, but sometimes, certainly we see these special interests as negative, as being a challenge and presenting so many challenges, and as something that can often separate them from their peers. If you think about peers that are thinking about, I don't know what their interests are in middle school, but it may not be washing machines. And if that's all they want to talk about, then they're going to have difficulty socializing and things like that. Can you talk about the challenge that the special interest can present?
Sure. And sometimes when a person with autism spectrum disorder has an unusual interest, and it can be, like you said, washing machines. Had an individual who knew everything there was to know about tornado sirens, could tell you everything. Electric appliances, plugs, and so when you get
I've heard of doors.
Yes.
How doors were different.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So when you get to those unusual interests, then we need to help that individual with autism understand who is my audience, who can I talk to about that? And typically family members are, able to do that.
Sure.
When do I talk about that, and how long can I talk about that? And, if it's dominating conversation, as you mentioned, that maybe they're talking about it so much, then we want to use some tools like social narratives or video modeling and help them understand how a conversation works.
Right. So there's that teaching task about this is the way a conversation works, and this is how much you can talk about your special interest in a social group. But we also have to give the other our conversation partner a chance.
Exactly. And
Right.
and then the flow of a conversation. The
Right.
topics are going to change. Although you're comfortable with your special interest and you want to talk about it, that can't be the only thing
Right.
that you can talk about.
Right,
So
yes.
that's the piece we have to look at.
Yes. Can you talk about the difference between special interest and obsessive compulsive disorder? Because sometimes people will use that interchangeably.
They will sometimes, yes. When an individual keeps talking with autism,
Yes.
keeps talking and talking about their special interest, and that's all they want to talk about. Even some professionals will sometimes say, and I think it's OCD. Well, obsessive compulsive disorder, that's not what it is, because that person is driven, the one with OCD, is driven to have to repeat an action or a phrase or something, and it comes from anxiety or distress, and they're aware of that behavior.
Yes.
Whereas the special interest, yes, they want to talk about it, and sometimes anxiety brings that on, but it's more because of their comfort level with that. So it does relieve stress, but different things.
So just being able to talk about it can be calming then.
Yes,
Can kind of
exactly.
serve even as an anchor.
Yes.
Something that you would want to encourage if you want, because often anxiety is so much a part of autism spectrum disorder
It is.
you want to identify ways and teach this individual ways to calm themselves, and that focus on the special interest can
help with that.
Can help with
Absolutely.
that. Okay,
Absolutely.
Thanks for making that distinction. I appreciate that. We have some resources here at OCALI. Do these resources deal specifically with special interest? I'm thinking about the ASD strategies in action.
Right. We do have some resources available at OCALI that can support, and mostly it would be so when we're trying to teach those social skills. So have the individual with autism understand a little more about social situations and how their interests can fit in to conversations and reading people's body language. So we can look at social narratives, we can look at video modeling using other visual supports, and we have a lot of information about those within ACC, our Autism Certification Center, Strategies in Action, and we also have on the Autism Center website, if you click the resource gallery.
Yes.
We have resources there that are really easy to use, even some templates and things. And then also in AIM, our Autism Internet modules.
Yes.
And so the Resource Center Gallery and AIM are free, and the ACC is free to Ohioans.
Right, yes, that ASD strategies in action.
Yes.
And in fact, I think families can go to asdstrategiesinaction.org just to make it easy to access that content
families.
knowledge.
Right.
Very good. And then can you share then some thoughts about the benefits? I mean, we know the downside, how it can be an obstacle and a challenge, but let's focus more on the benefits now.
Sure. And we brought up a couple already. What we hear from people with autism is that talking about their special interest or being able to be engaged with their special interest allows their anxiety levels to come down. One young lady, and within our resources, we have a YouTube video of her talking about it, and she says it recharges her batteries. So she's able to really go in and do it. And it's kind of funny. I mean, most of us, when we engage in something that's what we'll call hobby or collecting or something like that, that we do it because helps us feel good.
That's right. It nourishes our emotional well-being. I mean, that's what draws our attention to it.
And we derive joy from that.
Sure.
Right? And so it is the same for that individual with autism, but they have harder days than many of us do. And
That's
so
a
they
good
may
point.
need to have the ability to kind of escape all of that for a while within something that makes them feel better.
Right. Yeah. And that can be an important way. I think about one of our autism internet modules is on the concept of Homebase. And Homebase is just a place that's set up specifically, whether it's school or at home, where this person is going to be comfortable. A place where they can calm when things get things kind of get out of control for them.
Right.
And a child with a special interest, one of the things that you would have in that home base for them to focus on would be information, a book about what their special interest is, or whatever their favorite part of it is, whether it's maps or books or manuals on washing machines.
Right.
You know,
right.
so
Exactly.
you incorporate that in the strategies that you would use to help this individual use it as a calming strategy.
Right across their day.
Yes,
Exactly.
very good. Now, what are some ways that family members can use a child's special interest to support, say, the acquisition of daily living skills? This kind of the teaching part of it.
Right.
So we get away from thinking of it as a challenge as it is, but something that we can use that naturally connects to this individual.
Exactly.
Yes, to teach something they need to know.
One of the things that, again, individuals with autism have told us is that when their family members support whatever their special interest is, they feel accepted, they feel loved, they don't feel different,
excluded, or
excluded. And so I think the first thing is for families to feel that this is okay.
That's a good message.
We can work with this. It's all right. Then the next piece would be it allows families to have a low-stress topic of conversation, because sometimes interaction and engagement, you know, that's something that families really desire and individuals with autism desire, but it's harder for them. So that gives them, you know, the ability to be able to do that.
Right.
Then families also can use their special interest, because we're always trying to teach new skills, whether it's at home or at school in the community. And so what kind of tools, you know, can we use to do that?
Right, to combine those. Now, what would a tool look like?
One of the things we can use would be what's called a first-then board.
Okay.
And I talked about the resource gallery on the Autism Center.
Yes,
we have
yes, you
examples
did.
of that there.
Yes.
And so one of those things might be, first, I need you to vacuum your room.
Right.
And then you can have this favorite snack, which is
Yes.
also something your favorite character likes to eat. So you can pull that special interest. We have some people with autism who absolutely love Harry Potter.
Okay,
Know
yes, of
everything
course.
about it, right?
Yes,
And so
yes.
this example shows that we're going to use characters from Harry Potter. And so we found a meme about homework. And so first you got to do your homework, and then you get to watch some of your Harry Potter
Yes,
movie.
and so and you get to see, if you don't do your homework, you shall not pass.
Right.
Do homework.
And so coming from
Yes.
those characters is better than
Right.
mom and dad, do your homework, do your homework, do your homework.
Yeah, so after you've done your homework, then you can watch the movie. Then you can watch Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Yeah, that's I mean, and that's what you're teaching, is that that this has to come first, and then you can engage in this activity that you love. So kind of blending it with that, or pairing it with what that activity is.
And it's pretty simple to find pictures, graphics on
that tie into
any search
whatever,
engine.
whatever that special interest is.
So that's
Yes.
a pretty simple one to be able to use.
Okay, and that's certainly a good teaching strategy then. Now, is there another kind of visual strategy that you?
Yeah, another one's
Blend.
power cards.
Okay,
And
yes.
power cards, they start actually with, you kind of make a little story, and you have to determine the amount of words and pictures depending on what the individual is able to read and understand. And so you start maybe a little story. So for instance, the first one we have is about T-Rex and going to the grocery store.
Right.
So you may have a little story about it saying, oh, you know, when T-Rex goes to the grocery store, has to stay by his mom, and he holds on to the cart, and yeah, he might really want to put the Fruit Loops in, but he can't, you know, so he's got to get the Cheerios and put those in because that's what mom said. And so you have this little story
What
first.
your rules are, yes.
Right. And then you put it into what's called a power card.
Yes.
So this individual absolutely adores dinosaurs, knows everything about them. T-Rex is the favorite. And so we have T-Rex telling them what it is you want them to learn and do.
These short, simple sentences of here's what you do. Stay with your parents while shopping at the grocery store. Hold on to the grocery cart. Put only items in the grocery cart that mom and dad say. Good thinking there.
Right.
This makes T-Rex happy.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so when T-Rex says it,
Okay.
I'm good.
That's right. It's
I'm
unassailable.
gonna do
That's right.
that.
And the thing about a power card is that you can make it small enough that an
Right.
individual can carry it. A kid can carry it in his
Pocket,
pocket.
purse, right,
Right.
wherever you need it.
Right, right.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
And that also, so for instance, this can go for all ages. A lot of times people think visual support's only for little guys. But no, you know,
No.
we had an older individual who was starting to do job interviews and was really struggling, you know. And so we really wanted to teach those skills that needed to happen. But of course, it's really stressful. And so we used a power card story. He knew everything about every president there ever was. And so we used the president's, what would it is the presidents say about going to a job interview and what you would need to do.
Right, right. And I see the language here. When at a job interview, the presidents want you to remember, give a firm handshake at the beginning and the end of the interview, make some eye contact with the interviewer as you answer questions, and say thank you at the end of the interview.
Right.
So you've got those three things that you want the person to remember tied to that special interest area for them.
Yes. And so it helps them be able to focus and think, oh, if the presidents think that's important,
then I think that's important.
I think it's
whether it's
important.
President, Spider-Man,
Right.
or whatever.
Whatever.
But yeah, but it's linking that.
and it's all about skill building.
Yes.
You know, we're using these things to build those skills that our individuals with autism need to learn.
Right, right. And we're using it in ways that make it easier for them to remember what they need to do by tying it to something that's precious to them.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
absolutely.
so and the thing about using special interest and using power cards or any visual supports, and you mentioned this too, is that you want it to meet the developmental level and the expectations, the reading level of the individual you're preparing it for. It doesn't mean that this power card would be good for anybody else. It would only be good for the person who was tied into the presidents.
Right. Right.
But you can you can identify your child's special interest and figure out how you could create a power card that would be linked with the kind of behavior that you want to see.
Yes.
Yes. Now,
Yes.
and so you've given us two templates for that. One's the first then, the other is the power card. Now, you also talk about using special interest with the token economy. Can you explain that a little?
Absolutely. So token economies are about that positive reinforcement. And so if we have something we want a child to be able to learn, an individual with autism to learn, and we want them to repeat that positive skill.
Right. Yes.
And so we're using positive reinforcement. So one of the ways we can do that is through what's called token economy. And so for a certain number of times they do something, for a certain length of time they do something, they will earn a token.
Okay.
That token may be, for instance, like a little poker chip with a picture of a figure on it. It could be a number of coins. You know, it just depends on what their interest is. And then you have to adjust that economy depending on the child and how they're learning that skill.
Right. So you would choose the number of times that you would want the individual, to repeat that skill.
Yes.
It could be down as when you've done it twice, then you're going to get to engage in your special interest. Or and you might increase that as we need to see 5 times, and then the idea that it's an economy, you can purchase your experience to play Minecraft or whatever.
Right.
So and so this
for
one,
instance, so that example
is the Minecraft example, and it and I see the little Minecraft figure that you have there.
Exactly.
So,
they're little Velcro stickers that would go onto that board.
and that would be posted in a classroom or at home. And
Easily,
when you got and when you've got this many, you can play Minecraft. Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's a good example. And now and here's another one of another token economy. You can explain that one for us.
Well, many times families talk about they really want their child to sit at the dinner table with the family, and it's a tough thing, especially when they're younger. And so one of the things we had this child was about 5, and he loved the Beatles. All Beatles music, just really that was the special interest, fascination. And so the family said, well, Beatles music will be played when you're sitting at the dinner table, right?
Okay.
And so you're coming, and when you sit here for 2 minutes, you get a little Beatles token,
Mm-hmm.
2 more minutes, another one, and when you get 3 Beatles tokens,
We turn on
we're
the
going to
Beatles.
play a little bit of music.
I see.
And
I
then
see.
you can start it over again.
Okay.
And so using that special interest
Yes, yes.
to try to build those things that make the family life.
Right, right. Oh, those are great examples. Can we talk about some additional ways that we can build some really fundamental skills at home using special interests?
Absolutely. I know one of the other things that comes up quite often is toilet training.
Right.
Right. And so can be a difficult time for families. I know when I was training my twins,
Right.
woo, that was
Yeah.
tough times. But one of the things you could do then, so a child has a special interest, and I'm going to find a book about it. I'm going to find some pictures. I may have a figure. I may have some video that we could play on a device, and it's only available in the
I
bathroom
see.
when you are sitting on the toilet.
Right.
That's
right.
when you're going to get to have those things. And so you can pull the special interest
into something that's a critical
into that.
teaching.
Yes, absolutely. And
time.
it's a motivator. You know,
Yes,
it's the hook.
yes,
We're
right,
trying
it
to get
is.
them to try this thing that they really
Right.
don't want to do.
Yes.
And so we can do it that way.
Yeah.
And we talked about sitting at the meal and the Beatles, you know, for the token economy. But also, you can make a placemat with the special interest on it. For younger kids, you may even be able to find some, you know, dinnerware with
Yes.
their special interest on it. Even food, like if they love Dr. Seuss,
Yes.
Green Eggs and Ham,
Yes.
oh, we're going to have a little ham with
Yes.
dinner. You know, those kind of pieces. And we did talk about the music. You could have music playing while they're sitting. If they
Right.
move away from the table, we'll turn it off. When you come and sit, it's back on.
I see.
And so you could use
Use it that
special
way.
interests in that
Right.
way.
What about this important matter of building friendships? Is there a way to use, since special interest can sometimes stand in the way of building friendships, is there a way to use special interests?
Towards it?
Yeah, towards it.
Some individuals with autism do have a special interest that also some of their peers may share.
Right.
Especially, so gaming.
Yes, the Minecraft.
Yes,
Yes.
and videos and you know, some other things like that. So we may be able to find a shared special interest, which then we can bring some peers together
Right.
around that special interest.
Yes, I
so
see.
so that's one way. And then also, if maybe not same age peers, but we had one individual, Civil War. That was it. You know, that's all
Yes.
we're going to talk about, and he knew. I mean, everything, things I didn't even know existed about this, real expert. Well, there's Civil War enactments
Yes,
to go
yes,
to.
right.
There's Civil War museums. There are Civil War groups online
Yes,
that you
yes,
can
there
go
are.
to. There's games you can play, and then you can find other people who are gaming that. So it may not end up being same age, and of course,
Right.
you want to be aware of safety if you're doing
Yes,
any of that
that's a
online
good
with your
point.
kids, with
Yes.
something where there may be adults too. But that's
Right.
one way
but
that you can
yeah,
build
that's
that
a way
in.
to allow them to relate to others around a common interest.
Yes,
Yeah, and
exactly.
social relations are, I mean, with people of all ages,
Mm-hmm.
I think is important, and it validates the interest as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it
Yes.
does. So that's really good.
Okay.
Is that the only way to build friendships, do you think?
No, I think that's a strong way, and it's a comfortable way for the person with autism
Right.
because, of course, they're comfortable in that special interest. But also video modeling, social narratives are available. You can have social skills groups
Okay.
that are available, sometimes in the community, sometimes in schools. And actually, some of the best research for outcomes is coming from peer-to-peer support. So there's a very exact program, and you're training peers so they know how to interact with the person with
I
autism.
see. Yes.
That's showing some really good promise.
Good promise. Okay. I've also heard that special interest can lead to vocations. Do you have an example that you can share with
I
us?
do. You remember last year we have our OCALI conference,
Yes.
OCALI-Con,
Yes,
every
we do.
November. And last year we had an amazing guitar player,
Yes.
Zane. And his story is kind of cool. When he was 14, got the game Guitar Hero.
Yes.
Right, just played it endlessly. Finally, wasn't challenged by it anymore, so he got a real guitar, started playing. One day, his mom told Zane's younger brother, hey, go get your brother, tell him to turn off the radio and let's go. And he looked at her and said, that's not the radio, that's Zane playing his guitar. And no one knew. I mean, he's just in his room learning and doing this.
Doing his thing.
And yeah, and so they've really taken that interest and talent, and they've had him join bands.
Yes.
And be able to play around Ohio. And yeah, he stood in front of like 1,500 people.
He's been to Nashville, in fact. He's played in Nashville.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So he's got that going. Now, as any parent of a musician would tell you, that's not a real steady income.
Yeah, right.
And so what do we do with that? Yes, we want to encourage, but it may not be the only thing. He has perfect pitch. So they started really looking at occupations for that and found that tuning pianos is something, there's a super shortage of piano tuners. And so they have him now working with a piano tuner also. Oh, they took that special interest in their...
And they've kind of expanded it.
Yes,
right. Oh, wow. How about, is there a way that family members can help educators see what an important support special interest can be? Because I think sometimes you have your curriculum, you have what you're reading, and you just want this kid to conform. And parents know, I know he needs to learn this, but I think if you could, can you talk some about that?
Sure. I think one of the first things is helping school teams understand that the child's special interest is not something to extinguish, but something that's really going to be a tool for them to be able to use. And sometimes school teams don't get that. And again, you could bring them into the Autism Certification Center, the Strategies in Action, or to an AIM module and be able to help them understand that. And then we have books. We have an OCALI lending library that anyone in Ohio can borrow books from. So there's a couple books there that families could share. One being Developing Talents, and that's a book by Temple Grandin, been called the most famous person with autism in the world, right?
True.
Most people know who she is. And so her book is Developing Talents, Careers for Individuals with Asperger's Syndrome and High Functioning Autism. And so like Zane's special talents, how do you take that and make it into a career? And Temple goes into that in detail for families and educators to find some ideas. And then one of my favorite books is called Just Give Him the Whale. And that's by Paula Kluth. And her book is really cool. And she talks about, over 20 ways that you can use these fascinations and special interests and talents in a classroom. And so there's some really good resources to give to families.
And that families can then share with their IEP teams and with teachers.
Exactly. Yes.
And I like the message, the clear message that this special interest is not to be extinguished. May be managed, but it gives a lot, and we need to acknowledge what it also gives. And we can use it to the child's benefit.
And it can interfere sometimes when they're so focused on this and so interested in it that nothing else will come in unless it's about that. So let's think of a couple ways in a classroom you could work around that. For instance, many of our students with autism struggle when it comes to like a group reading time, and they have to sit and they just have to focus on this book and listen. And that book's not about my topic, so I don't care. No thanks. Well, as a teacher, I'm going to say, all right, this child absolutely adores dolphins. So I start group reading time. I say, guess what, everybody? There are 5 dolphin stickers hidden in our story today. See if you can find them.
I see. So the book is not necessarily about dolphins, but
you can build it in. You can build it in.
That's
one way you can do that. All right. So and let's talk about maybe an older child in high school, and they're learning how to write a persuasive paper. And the teacher has a certain list of topics that they want the students to use. But then I have a student with autism who has a special interest, and that differentiated instruction piece. So I'm going to allow that student with autism to use that special interest for their persuasive writing. And I'll talk to them a little bit about it and work on it. But the whole idea is being open to, it's really the skill of persuasive paper that I want them to learn how to do. And so does the topic really matter?
Right.
So it's that flexibility and being creative and thinking of ways to embed their interest in whatever I'm teaching.
Right, right. Oh, very good examples. I really appreciate it. And then what about special interests, when the special interests do interfere with learning? We do want to be realistic, and we know that can happen.
And it can. And, some of the things that we've talked about, that having a token economy, so really need you to pay attention for the next 15 minutes, and so we're going to earn some rewards, and then you can have it. You could use the first then card also in the classroom. Any of those pieces for the individual, a power card about what T-Rex is going to do in the classroom.
Yes.
Any of those kind of things that we talked about for families also can be used in the classroom, and pull that special interest in so they see they're respected for it and you understand, and they have that interest, and really try to embed it. There's some amazing research coming out right now about when the special interest is included in teaching, we have better outcomes in language, in social communication, in fine motor activities, right? All those kinds of things we want them to learn. So if a child loves gardening, all right, so we need to work on fine motor. How easy is that?
Right.
There's some plants in the room, right? You trim them, you water them, you plant them, it's all your hands, right? Communication, we're going to set up that you have a peer partner and you're going to talk about those things as you go through. So again, it's thinking about how do I use and embed this special interest into what we're doing.
Right, and into a way that's going to benefit this child, this student.
Absolutely, and allow them to learn what it is you want them to learn.
Okay. Now tell me this, can you overuse special interests?
According to people with autism, no. No, it's not like other things we use to reinforce where they only work for a little while and then you have to have another one because they don't have an interest anymore. Unless their special interest changes, then you have to change with that. But typically a special interest will just keep working.
Okay, and you just have to accept it for what it is. The potential that it has, and not automatically dismiss it as something that is an obstacle or is a challenge.
And the only time I've actually run into anything that would go maybe against some of the things we've talked about are some video games that may have some more violent type activities in them. And so if students become interested in those and then come to school and maybe are acting some of that out, or talking about things that are not appropriate for school and they're not understanding that, then that's something we might actually limit. So something that's going to cause...
But we would try to guide that special interest in the same area of interest, but not necessarily these video games.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But that's probably about the only one that we've come across that won't
you would
work
have to,
for anything.
Okay. All right. I think that you've made some really important points for us here. And one of the points that you made that I don't think we would automatically assume or understand is how important their involvement in special interest can be in relieving anxiety and helping the person become calm and be calm. And I think that's really important. I think another point that you made was about families acknowledging or accepting the special interest rather than seeing it as something we have to ignore, but accepting it and validating it. It's okay for you to be interested in this. This is okay for you to do that. But it's an aspect of that person that you want to appreciate and to honor and to give some thought to how you can use it in their benefit. You've been really helpful today, Wendy. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed
it. I appreciate it. Thanks.